Welcome to Thursday's edition of Extra Time. Greg, Shep, and Jason here for Act 3, The Deep End. The summer is here, and how do we know? Because all of a sudden, teams have 2 games a week, and players are running off for extended, international duty, all that kind of stuff. So it got us thinking about which MLS teams can cope with the absences. We weren't alone in this. We actually got an email about this from Mike Paulsmeyer in Seattle, and he's worried about his Sounders. He's a season ticket holder, and he said a few weeks ago, we were without Alonso and Ljungberg, and Colorado went through us like Swiss cheese. I'm scared of the long season and all the injuries. His question is, which team will benefit the most and which team the least from their bench? Shep, what you got?
Well, it's a great email question because these are difficult days if you're a team in Major League Soccer, but it's an issue that teams all over the world face. If you're in Spain, you're playing in La Liga, you're playing in Copa del Rey, you're playing in UEFA Champions League, but
it's a little different in MLS.
Yeah, bigger rosters. So Back to the question here. It's a tough one. I think Seattle's going to be in a little bit of trouble if they lose players. They don't have the depth on the roster, I think, to step in and make a difference.
I think Seattle's. I don't know that they're going to lose too many players, but I'll tell you that if that first 11 that they have is definitely competitive. They don't have too much behind it.
Well, the question also had to deal with injuries too. It's not necessarily losing them to absences, but as the season gets longer and longer, and the traveling, and you start to break down, and if a player gets injured, that's a problem for
I would
Seattle.
throw out Colorado as a team who I think could get hurt. You got guys like Colin Clark, Connor Casey, potentially going to Gold Cup. Omar Cummings is a Jamaican international. Right. So, if you were to lose those 3 players right there for say even just 2 or 3 weeks, that's going to hurt Colorado.
Well, I think a team that actually won't be hurt that much for me is Toronto. I think that actually they're going to be okay. They might lose Amado Guevara for Gold Cup duty, but for them, Carl Robinson is not on international duty anymore. He's retired from the Welsh national team, so that helps them. They have a team that they don't have as many Canadian internationals, so they actually might survive pretty well.
Yeah, good point. Now, I'll point out Houston in a different context. Even if they lose players, I think they have quality depth. It's not just depth on your roster. Right. It's who's going to step in if you lose a Brian Ching. Well, they have Adi Akinbaye.
Not bad. He's got a lot of experience.
So I think Houston can compensate for losses.
Right. I would want to see Akinbaye prove himself before I say that. I think losing Ching is going to hurt them, especially when you look at the relationship that he has with Kamara. Even if you get Akinbaye in there and he's plays well, does he have that that relationship with Kamara where they kind of know what each other's doing? And
he played in the Premiership. Stick it in the back of the net, he'll be fine.
Well, I would worry also for Houston though that maybe Stuart Holden gets called up for the U.S. team for Gold Cup. That's an issue for them too.
That'd be a void.
That would be a big problem
for them.
I think
Brad Davis steps into the middle of the field. Corey Ash on the outside, and I don't know that they're that hurt in that position.
We're talking about teams. I think in this conversation, who's going to be hurt the most? You have to be a good team. If you're at the bottom of the standings, you know what? Shake it up. Get your young players that are untested, give them an opportunity to win a job and get a result.
I'll tell you who I think is actually going to make out when all these call-ups happen and a lot of games are playing. DC United, they've played. I feel like they've played their entire roster at least at some point in some games.
Everyone's
right?
played. They've had a lot of injuries, right?
Even their Open Cup games, they're winning their Open Cup games with different rosters. They're probably not going to lose too many players.
Same with
Santino,
Chivas USA.
Quaranta, maybe.
Chivas USA has had the same thing too. They've had a lot of injuries, and they're going to be getting some guys getting back. Ante Raza coming back from injury, Dan Kennedy coming back from injury. Even though Thornton's been doing just fine in goal, so that's a good one. Gold Cup will still, of course, be exciting. It's actually a great chance for some MLS players to get out there and start playing. I could imagine Colin Clark. You mentioned him maybe getting called in there. You can imagine Santino Quaranta from DC. The way he's playing, he should probably get a call in as well. And Columbus's Chad Marshall might be in there as well. I'm not sure anyone from New York is going to get a call in anytime soon, but New York has a huge game this week. They go down to DC on Thursday night. It's on ESPN2, 7:30 p.m. And Shep, I know the way New York is playing, you're looking forward to seeing this one, actually.
I'm looking forward to it for, I think, the wrong reason. It's like when people stop to watch a car crash or a train wreck. This team, New York...
A little rubbernecking, huh?
Yeah, no, it's hard to imagine because I don't think they've played that badly. They've just been horrendous when it counts. So you talk about a homestand where they didn't do well. They have to try and turn it around. I think the pressure is on the players and the coach, and what better team to try and bring out the pressure than DC United?
Yeah, I think New York has a lot of great pieces. I love watching Kanji play. Angel should be doing more than he is. I'd like to see, I would like to see them try to put something together. Even Salidas in the midfield has improved them.
Well, I think everyone would like to see them do something, but they just don't seem to be doing it. And I don't know what it is. So, and the way DC's been playing lately, despite the loss to New England, they actually outplayed New England, I think, for most part, and had better chances to score.
We talk about rivalries that are really real rivalries, and DC United New York is one of them. So DC United has been dominant in this history at home against New York, but this is a wounded New York team, so you never know.
Well, you never know. But the big game this weekend, the one that I'd be willing to scalp tickets for, is another rivalry that's heating up more, Seattle and Chivas. A couple of questions come up to mind. Number one, can Chivas recover from the loss to Chicago? It was pretty devastating, but you, Shep, think that Chivas actually won that game on the field, let's say. And number two, can Seattle get a win after going winless throughout May? This will be a tough road trip for the Seattle Sounders.
Yeah, I'd pay to watch this game also. I think you have marquee players, you have star players on both sides of the ball for both teams. I do think that Chivas rebounds. When you lose a heartbreaking game like they did against Chicago, the one thing you want as a player, the one thing Preki wants as a coach, get back on the field. And Seattle will be tough, but I think Chivas is good.
I got one for you. Chivas' record against the top 7 teams in MLS, 2-2-2. Chivas' record against the bottom 8 teams in MLS, 4-0-1. Well, I guess it's bottom 7. I got to take them out.
They're winning the games they need to win. It's Peter Hurt of Elias Sports right here.
So do they have what it takes to beat Seattle, who's probably one of the top half of teams? I don't know.
Well, it should be a good game regardless. Chivas still at the top of the Western Conference right now. Seattle trying to get there. So be sure to check that one out on the Direct Kick package with MLS. That's all we have for you this week on Extra Time. You can always email us at extratime@mlsnet.com. Join us again next week and we'll kick it around.